So to get started with the figure, let's talk about proportions. For my paper setup, I'm using a printer piece of paper. There are 9 lines with 8 spaces total and a 1/16 of an inch space between each line. I'm going to start by drawing some little ovals to represent that the average man is 8 heads high. We'll talk about sizes of women, teenagers, children, toddlers, etc. later. But for now, let's just focus on a generic 8 head tall puppet figure. So after you have your paper set up, let's go ahead and put down some labels for our proportions here. So up at the top, we of course have the very top of the head. Right on that second line there would be the chin. Then, following the chin, we have your mid-rib. This is also roughly where nipples would fall to, so you can put that in parentheses. Next, we have belly button. And in parentheses, you could also write elbows. This will come in handy later. Next, on the next line under 4, we have pelvis / hip, followed by mid-thigh. This is also typically where hands will fall on most people. Next will be your knees, followed by mid-calf. And then finally, we have the base of the foot on the bottom line there. So just to zoom out, this is what your paper setup should look like. So let's go ahead and get started and we'll draw a puppet figure together. So we'll start by drawing an oval to represent the head. This puppet figure will just be a front view to start with, and we'll talk about other viewpoints later. And then you'll find you can draw this puppet figure however you want to. I find it easiest when I'm teaching it to first draw a line straight down to the pelvis. And then we're going to illustrate the pelvis just kind of with a triangular shape. And that'll just kind of get your basic, that straight line in there, and then we'll kind of build everything from there. Think of it as like you're drawing like your little hangman guy, but he's a little bit more detailed than that. So now we've got that line attached to our pelvis there. Think about your spine. So thinking about your shoulders coming down, leave a little space for your neck there. Shoulders are typically going to be about the width of 3 heads. So I'll just draw a couple little ovals here so you can just see what that looks like. We'll erase those in a minute. If that's helpful, you can do the same. And then think about your shoulders. That's a movement point. So we illustrate that with just like a little circle, a little dot. You can draw it even bigger than that if you want to, if that's helpful. But think about you have that movement point from there. Okay. Then I think the easiest way, actually, let's go ahead really quick before I move on. I'm just going to erase these extra heads because they look kind of crazy. So erase those, and then let's think about putting on kind of your next point. So thinking about your elbows, go ahead and draw a circle where your elbows would fall, and then we'll connect your arm from your shoulder to your elbow. Okay, and then I like to do the same thing. Actually, we're going to hop down and then do the same thing with the knees. Same idea. So think about your hip. Okay, you've got a movement point coming down to your knees. And then I'll just show you too. You can draw little circles for your hips to just show that that range of movement. And if it's helpful, you can draw a line in there too. And then you'll connect your leg. Okay, so your upper leg, we'll connect that. And he's starting to come together. He looks a little funky right now, but we're getting there. So now from our knees, we know hands typically come down mid-thigh. So actually stand up and you can try this on yourself, but typically hands are going to come mid-thigh. So we just draw these for now as like a little glove hand, okay? And we'll go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Again, just like a little glove hand. Think about that movement point at your wrist, and then you can connect the arm. And just to show you, kind of a little side note with hands, palms facing away would have your thumb toward you, palms open, thumb away. So we'll just draw a little box over here to illustrate that point. Again, if your thumbs are toward your legs, toward your body, palms are closed. Okay, if your thumb is away from your body, your palm is open. All right, so let's go ahead and draw our feet. And I just illustrate those for now with our puppet figures, just little triangles. Think about your ankle as a point of movement, and then you can connect the rest of your leg. My tape kind of is getting in the way here, so peeling it back. But then drawing my other foot, again, just a little triangle. I've got that movement point. And then let's come back up actually to the top. We are going to add in our rib cage. And actually, I typically draw this a lot sooner than I did, but I was just so focused on building the rest of the figure. So we're finishing with it. Doesn't really matter. It's still there. So drawing in kind of your rib cage, thinking about that is really helpful. And especially when we start talking about the profile and 3/4 view, which we'll get to in just a second. All right, let's draw from the profile. So thinking about the head, start with kind of a oval off to the side a little bit, and then we'll finish that, which is kind of like a front piece coming down, which we'll talk more about when I do my video on bones. But we'll just kind of illustrate the profile of the head like this, okay? Now, the side profile view is a little bit different. So notice your neck is going to curve a little bit, and then I'm going to draw a shoulder point. It is foreshortened, so that clavicle bone, or your shoulders going across, you're only going to see kind of a little dip of it. And then from there, it's going to start to come down, but curve in as you hit the elbow line, but then kind of curve back out to hit the pelvis. Okay. Now your pelvis, you're still going to draw, actually, before we talk about pelvis, let's go ahead and put our rib cage in. Get that in there a little bit sooner this time. And notice how it's out to the side. Okay, so that bone structure is coming out a little bit. Okay, and then hopping back to the pelvis, we're still drawing this as a triangle, but notice I'm skewing the viewpoint a little bit. Okay, so it's longer, and now you can kind of see that flow a little bit. Drawing my point of movement for my elbow, drawing that line straight down for my arm. Again, I'm still going to do my little glove hands for now. Okay, and again, connecting my arm, finishing that out. And for the profile, you could draw an arm on the other side if you wanted to. For now, I'll just draw the one. Okay. And then let's think about hips a little bit as they're coming out. This leg, let's draw it up on a stool. So I'm actually going to raise up the knee to where the mid-thigh goes, and then draw a little stool here at the bottom. And then here is my foot. Little triangle foot, put my ankle on there and finish that leg. And then this other one I'll put kind of at the normal point. Oops. Knee in the wrong spot. Okay, so putting the knee right spot, drawing the leg, and then this one we'll just draw normal. Just a little triangle foot, put my ankle in there, connect the leg. All right, so now there is my profile view of a puppet figure. So for the 3/4 view, everything's just kind of slightly at an angle. So I'll explain this as I go, but the head is kind of like a combination between the front and the profile. Notice I did draw some little lines in there, just kind of help with that kind of skew. I'm still drawing my neck at somewhat of a curve, slightly, and then I'm actually going to put my rib cage in here a minute. And then you'll really start to see this angle that I'm talking about when we start to get to the shoulders here and see what I'm talking about. So putting in shoulders. So when you're standing a 3/4 view, notice how everything is kind of at a slight angle. Okay, so I'll show you with the elbow too. So drawing that first elbow at the point, that line, okay, draw some arrows here too to just kind of illustrate this movement I'm talking about. So notice that I'm drawing my second elbow just a little bit lower, okay, because of that 3/4 view. So you're seeing everything kind of at a slight angle. Other than that, it's pretty much spot on with the front view, except for this little bit of the curve, okay, the spine you're seeing there, slight curve. And then notice the pelvis too is sort of curved up slightly. And if you wanted to see this on the other side, you could always hold your paper up to light or hold it up to the window when you were done, and you'd see like the mirror image of it. But again, drawing my knees, notice I drew them two at an angle. So the one on the right is just slightly lower than the one on the left. Connecting everything else the same. Okay, same thing with the ankles and the feet. You're going to see that kind of slightly lower. Seeing that little angle. And then coming back up to finish the rest of my arms, adding in my little glove hand here. Same kind of idea. And we'll see a little bit kind of a shift too. So I'm just lowering the hand slightly, lowering the wrist slightly. So again, everything is at that angle for that 3/4 view. So to get comfortable with poses, you could always like fill in kind of these reverse silhouettes here, and just do your little puppet figure and draw it inside these poses. That kind of helps you get comfortable with drawing them on your own. And then as soon as you feel comfortable, really, it's just about practice. So sometimes I'll draw the little grid for certain poses, but then sometimes I'm, off of the grid. But keep practicing and just draw lots of different puppet figures and different poses. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get.